was having a conversation today with my brother, and he I think he heard it on a podcast or read it somewhere, and he was talking to me about the difference between facts and truth, and that there was this view put forth that there's a distinction between those two, and we started talking about that, and if we thought that was right or wrong or what that was. And I guess the initial kind of starting point that he brought up was that facts are kind of objectively true, whereas truth is somewhat individualized, right? There could be somebody's truth, or something could be true for somebody but not for somebody else. So it loses that completeness. It loses that objective nature that a fact has, that everybody knows and sees, and everybody's being reasonable and rational. Everybody knows and sees and accepts. And truth becomes a little bit more nebulous, becomes a little bit less objectively true. And again, it's somewhat individualized or personalized for people. Which begs the question, right away, like, well, then the way you're describing truth, isn't that just an opinion? If it's just true for some people, wouldn't that just be an opinion? That's what they think. But even the phrasing of it suggests otherwise, right? It's true for me, right? I love that TV show, or I think that person's beautiful, or I think dark chocolate's delicious. These are all things that are true for me, right? I truly feel that way, but they're not facts, right? In many ways, it's my opinion. It's an opinion that dark chocolate is delicious. So when you think of it through that lens, you start to appreciate, like, maybe there is a distinction there, right? Maybe there are opinions, but there's truth in them, and that distinguishes it from a fact. Because historically, you would think truth and fact are the same thing. A fact is just something that's objectively true, and everybody knows it and everybody believes it. But the fact that you have to qualify it with objectively true, I guess, suggests that there's something more to it. I guess there's a subjective truth. Again, the individual truth. So you start getting into a little bit of semantics, and you say, okay, well, why do we have a word for truth? Why do we have a word for opinion? How does all that play out? And you can start to kind of go down the rabbit hole on that. But what we started to, I wouldn't say we started to land on, because I don't think we thought through it enough, but was that, truth has some dimension of meaning to it. It means something to the person or the individual or whoever it might be. Whereas facts don't. Facts don't have any meaning that gets attached to them. There's nothing deeper to it. There's nothing individual to it or personalized to it. It's just the information. It's just factually true that this shirt is gray, right? And you could debate facts in general, and that we ever actually know, is this actually gray, or is it just the way that our eyes see, all different things you can get into. But so if you go down that path, then you get to the question of, well, is there anything meaningful to that? Is there anything insightful or useful in the idea that there's a distinction between facts and truth? And maybe, I guess my first thought is maybe it's a source of conflict. Maybe it's a source of tension and problems that we have, because if we use those things synonymously, it's easy to get tripped up. Right? When things are true for you and you believe them to be true, and they are true, right? Maybe subjectively true, as we said. I think maybe too often we assume that means they are objectively true and they are facts. You hear that in conversations a lot. In many ways, it gets the whole idea of certainty, right? Somebody will say, you can't tell me any different. I know this politician is crooked or evil or an asshole, whatever it is. And there's an unwillingness to relent on that. There's a belief that is a fact, that is definitely true. And it may be true for that individual. It is true for that person that is what they believe completely. So I think it does suggest that there is some value in figuring out that nuance and figuring out the wording to position it in such a way where it accurately reflects what the situation is. Because I think for the individual, for them to understand that distinction and understand that, yes, this is true for me. This is something that I believe to be true, but I understand that others might not. And to be able to distinguish that from a fact where you say everybody needs to see it the way I do, Well, no, maybe, again, maybe it is just true for you. And I think it starts to get a little bit into the realm of empathy. I think empathy and humility, which we talk about a lot in these videos, is kind of key traits to have in thinking better. I think those are two of the traits that allow you to start to appreciate that and to start to say, this is my truth, but that person might have a different truth. And you can start to appreciate their perspective a little bit. You can start to entertain the idea that the way you see it isn't the only way and isn't necessarily objectively true. It is not a fact. There is a distinction there. So I think more to think about on this. I probably need to talk through it with my brother and other people more and really kind of think through what the value of this is. But it feels like there is some value. Feels like there is some value to distinguishing those things, and just the words matter, right? So if you can get the words right, the words represent what we're trying to say. And if we're using incomplete or ineffective or just incorrect words, it can drive a lot of things. It can drive a lot of miscommunication. It can drive a lot of problems. So I think it's important. It's important to get that right. And I do believe that the average person, or the majority of people you might talk to, if you start to ask them about the difference between facts and truths, or true, what's the difference between the truth and a fact, they're going to say nothing. And that, I think, again, is the source of some of the issues that we have.